Hello,
Hello.
Gabby. Oh, good. I'm so glad that worked.
Awesome.
I wasn't sure. I was like, this is, I think, my first time having a guest host. So
Perfect.
awesome. So I did spill the beans on where you studied. So everyone knows that it is Prague we will be talking about today. But if you can tell us just a little bit about yourself, where you go to school. I think I spilled the beans on that as well. So made your job really easy today, Gabby. No problem.
Yes.
Uh, where you go to school, what you're studying, and the big question I think at hand, why Prague? So take the
Okay.
floor.
So, thank you for the intro. I'm Gabby. I go to Worcester State University, so it's right in the center of Massachusetts, if anyone's wondering, that's us. I study communications. I'm a junior with a concentration in digital media production, and I also have a theater minor, which is fun. Um, and I would say I chose Prague because it was super central. It was a city, and I knew I wanted to be in a city, but it was in the center of Europe, so I could kind of pop around to a couple different countries without being too far away, but knowing that I would be happy staying in my location as well. So I really loved it there.
Yeah, the beauty of studying abroad in Europe is that it's so easy and so much
Mhm.
cheaper rather than just flying across the pond back and forth. You can kind of just take a high-speed train, an hour flight, and you're anywhere else. So I'm totally with you on that. Awesome. When you were choosing your location of study, did you consider any other places, or were you just 100% Prague all the way home?
I definitely looked at a couple. I looked at Greece a lot. I looked at Hungary, which isn't too far from the Czech Republic, but I really ended up settling on Prague. It was a phenomenal price, and everything in Prague is also really, really cheap. So it was always fun to kind of like take a weekend excursion to somewhere that might have been a little more expensive and always know we could like go home and have a great time there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a rarity for Europe in general because you're dealing with the euro. It's obviously a higher currency. I don't, was the currency in Czech, was that a euro, or
The
was that was a
crown.
specific, was that
The crown.
the crown? The crown.
Yes,
I
it was a
like
good
that.
one.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, so finding an affordable program in Europe, and we make these programs as affordable as they possibly can be for you guys, but um, Prague is definitely probably the top of all of those options that we have available. So awesome. Good pick. Okay, so this is a loaded question. You get this from your family, your friends, everybody wants to know, well, did you enjoy it or did you like it? And it's such like a silly question because it's like, how do I fit this loaded answer into one succinct like dialogue? But what did you like about Prague the most? Maybe like three top things that you enjoyed
Okay.
about that city.
Specifically to Prague, I would say three top things. I loved the size of it. It was the perfect size to take a quick train to class. Well, not a train, we took the tram. A quick tram to class, and then you could walk over the bridge. Beautiful, beautiful view over the water. And then, okay, number two, I would say this isn't just Prague, but it would pertain to the people I was there with. I made some phenomenal friends who I think truly made the experience. I felt like we had a wonderful support team as well. Shout out to our resident director, Renata in Prague. She is phenomenal,
Awesome.
as is the rest of the team. And then I would say the third thing would be the architecture, which I wouldn't have considered myself like an architecture person before I went. But when I got there, like I was walking the streets looking up, just always looking up, looking at the buildings and all of the different types of buildings. Like it was just, you could walk and walk and walk for hours and never get sick of it.
That's amazing. And then you come home and you're like, there's no gold on our buildings.
No, I
Where
don't
are we
know
going
why.
wrong here? It's not wrong, it's just different. And one thing that I think we kind of skipped over, and it's important for everybody to know this, is you studied abroad in spring 2020.
I did.
And for those of you who are thinking about this calendar in your head, that was the semester that we had to repatriate all of our students
Mhm.
home. So how long were you there for before all of that had kind of unraveled, I guess?
So I was there for about 7 weeks. So when I put it, I would say like 7 weeks was the perfect time to like just finally feel like we were like living there. Like it
Mm-hmm.
finally felt like home. Like we weren't just long-term visitors. Like we finally started to get into like the perfect groove, I think. So the cutoff, while it was a bit short, it was a life experience. It was something that we can say we all conquered together, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos to you because that was I promise you that decision for us was just as hard as it must have been for you guys to repatriate home. Of course, doing everything with safety and health and risk in mind. Terrible timing, absolutely. But you guys, spring 2020, not just Prague, every program that we did have to bring home, everyone was so cooperative and instrumental in doing this fast, safely. Yeah, kudos to the RDs because they had a lot on their plates to deal with, but everybody was phenomenal in what could have been a less than ideal situation for sure. So everyone who is watching, keep that in mind that, you know, a 7-week program, and you were there for a spring semester, so that would have been roughly 3 months, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little closer to 2. 3.
Okay,
3 months?
closer to
yeah.
2.
Whatever.
I should know that. I apologize. So closer to 2 months, and you were cut kind of short, and you still had a pretty fruitful experience. And everyone who studied, especially Prague, I hear like the highest of the highest compliments of that program. So awesome. You can have a good experience even in the middle of, you know, what is a less than ideal situation. So kudos to you, Gabby. Absolutely. So your housing situation, we only offer one type of housing for Prague. So can you tell me a little bit about, did you have a roommate? What was that housing like? Convenience to the school, all of those good things.
Okay, so to break down all the housing situation, we did just have the one housing situation. It was a dorm, which I really enjoyed because we were all kind of in one spot. And it felt like it wasn't only AIFS students in the dorm as well. There were a couple other programs in the dorm, which I really appreciated, being able to get to know lots of other students and really like expand our horizons. I ended up living with 4 people in a suite style. So there were 5 of us total. We had 3 single rooms and 1 double room. So that was really nice. I wasn't expecting a single. I was fully expecting a roommate, but I did have my own room but I still had roommates that we all kind of lived together. So I wasn't all by myself, thankfully, but we shared like a little kitchen area. We had our own bathroom and shower, and everything was really in one spot. And there was also a full communal kitchen on every single floor throughout the dorm building, which was really nice to kind of go in and see all the other students also cooking their dinners and hanging out and eating together. So it was like a very nice communal experience to get to know people.
And if you connect with anything, anybody, anywhere, or if you don't connect with any topic with anyone, I'm losing my words, food is always a way to connect with people. So that's like to have a communal kitchen, to have a place where everyone can kind of gather and be together, even if you're complete strangers, food will always bring everyone together.
Agreed.
So I like to believe.
It was always nice to see someone cooking in the kitchen, always.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you offer your food once, people are probably more than likely to do the same. So very cool. Awesome. And I know we talked a lot about, I'm kind of bouncing around my questions here, but friendships, camaraderie, you said, you know, you met a lot of people through the AIFS program and all of those participants, but you said that there were other people that you had met through your program as well. So can you tell us a little bit about those relationships and how have they changed since returning home?
Yes, we also lived in our building with a group of students from Miami University in Florida, so they were all super nice. I still keep in touch with one of them, which is really sweet. And then there were a couple other programs like AIFS. I want to say it was API. There were a couple students from there who we met as well, and we all kind of also had our classes together. So it wasn't only we lived together, we were also all under like the same umbrella within our university. So it was like a nice group of students to travel with, and we had a couple of students not from the US sprinkled into our classes as well, which was always fun.
Very cool.
One student from France, he was great.
Yeah. And then the beauty of like making friends, whether it's on a train, in a dorm room, through your study abroad program, you now have people, one, that you can travel with, and you know how they like to travel. They're good travel companions because you have kind of those liked minds after doing a program like this. And then also just coming back to the US, you know, when things start to open up again and there's a sense of normalcy, you can road trip to all these different, you know, parts of the country. So you have your international travel buddies and people to visit in the US, and there's really no wrong way to go about that. So we
definitely have some travel plans in mind to meet back up once we can.
Yes. And you always have those people who can relate to that experience. It is kind of hard to come home and explain to people, again, that loaded question of, well, how was it? Did you like it? Yeah, of course I did. Silly question.
Yes.
But, you know, those inside jokes and things like that
Mhm.
will carry on with the people that you did study abroad with. I stay in touch with people that I studied abroad with a long time ago. We won't go into how many years, but they are friends for life. You're bonded by that experience forever, especially, I imagine, if you, again, had to repatriate and kind of go through that qualm of
Yes.
the pandemic and all of those struggles. Again, can't give kudos enough to you guys. I have yet not lived through something like that. So good on you guys. You said you went on some weekend trips. You had friends to travel with. What weekend trips did you go on from Prague? Were there any AIFS excursions included in that lineup of travels that you're able to go on?
Yes. So the 2 weekend trips I went on with some friends, not with AIFS, we went to Paris and we also went to Copenhagen, which were both great experiences. We had such a good time in Paris. We went to the Louvre and saw the Mona Lisa and all of that good stuff. And we also went to Copenhagen, where it was up north, a little bit chillier, but just as beautiful. Just it kind of felt like Prague almost, because it had the river running through and all the beautiful colored houses. But I will say my favorite trip was the one we went on with AIFS down to Moravia, which is like the southern Czech Republic down there. We were right near the border of Austria. And we went to this cute little wine cellar with all of our AIFS group and all of the faculty and everyone there. And we had dinner all laid out on this big long table together, and we drank wine and we sang little traditional Czech music together, and we went in these beautiful underground caves. Like that was definitely my highlight. Like it was stunning.
I feel like I have a movie reel going through my head right now. It gets very, very visual, very cool. Did you pick up any of the language while you were there?
I've got a little bit, just a little. I
And
can
how to
say
say hello, ahoy,
ahoy,
ahoy.
ahoy. I can say sem Gabby mluvím trochu česky, means I speak a little Czech,
There you go, right?
just a
As
little.
long as you can ask directions, maybe where the bathroom is, help, if the word help, that's always a good one to know. But yeah, did you have any courses specific to language while you were there?
We took a 2 week intensive crash course, which
Right.
sounds really intimidating, and it was like 5 hours each day of Czech for like 4 days each week. But it was so helpful. Like I don't think I would have picked up the language quite as quickly without that 2 week block. And it was in like a nice little cohort of students. We had maybe like 10 or 15 of us in there, all just quickly trying to learn the language with a really great instructor as well. So that was super helpful, I think.
Yeah, and there's like a pro and a con to not knowing a language when you first go somewhere abroad, because you can kind of come back to that class and say, okay, professor, like this is what I wish I knew yesterday when I was ordering my dinner and I came out with a completely different plate of food. You just kind of figure out what you need to know on the street to be a little bit more savvy, to maybe kind of cause less of that, look at me, I'm an American, kind of blend a little bit in a way. So yeah, having that crash course in the beginning, you can kind of, go back to your professor and say, this is what I actually need to know. All this other stuff is great, conjugation, whatnot, but how do I get around? That's kind of the point. So we did talk a little bit about classes, your crash course, crash language course, but you were there for a full term semester, so you did take a full credit load, full-time credit load. Can you tell us a little bit about the classes you took, maybe one favorite class, maybe which class was the most challenging, and maybe one that you would recommend?
Okay, so I would say to start off easy, my favorite class, hands down, I took New Wave Cinema, which was all about the Czech cinema during the New Wave, which was this period. I'm going to get the dates wrong. My professor, he's not watching, it's okay, but it was around the time period of the
He might be.
He might be. It was around the time period of the 60s, and they had all of these wonderful new films coming out. So that was really great and transferred really well when we had to come home. It still worked really well in like an online platform to kind of watch the movies on our own time and then have like a Zoom discussion about it, which I really enjoyed. And then I also took sociology of landscapes and sociology of food, which were both a little out of my comfort zone. I've never taken a sociology course, so two at the same time. I was a little nervous, but it was really good. The sociology of food course, we went to a museum, we did a couple little trips, and we learned all about not just Czech food, but Czech food and culture surrounding it, like what times of days do people eat, etc., and things like that. So that was also a really good one. And then Czech humor and culture. So we learned a lot about how Czech humor varies from just typical American humor and how to kind of get into that groove if you're meeting someone else from the Czech Republic and how to not scare them off too much. So we studied a lot of like really interesting movies and literature covering all different kinds of Czech humor, which was really interesting.
That is, I've never heard about a class in general, whether it's US
Yes.
or abroad, where the word humor is in the title of class. So what is the best way to not scare off a Czech person, I guess, through that
I would
outlet?
say their humor is a little more reserved, but once you get to know them, it's a little darker than the typical American humor. They
Right.
like they love their good films, good funny films. We watched them. There was one called The Fireman's Ball, if I had to recommend. It's a good humor, and
Okay.
you do have to read the
The
subtitles,
subtitles.
but I promise it's worth it. So
Awesome.
keep that in the back somewhere.
Yes. And then any course with food, I'm sold. Did you get to do any
Yes.
taste testing or any like little
Yes.
restaurant trips?
When we were supposed to do a little bit of taste testing, but as we know, we had to go home. But when we did go home, we did a little Zoom cooking course, and we all logged on, and we cooked these little potato pancakes in the traditional Czech sense. And I made them all for my family for breakfast, and it was really good.
Yeah, your family is definitely going to reap the benefits of your return back to the States,
Yes.
early or as planned, because you come back with all these new recipes. And for me, when I came back from my study abroad, I didn't want to eat anything
Yeah.
in the US. I was like, I I was just like completely turned off by
Hmm.
American food, any fast food or chain restaurant. It takes a minute to kind of acclimate back to that. So with that being said, we're talking about acclimation back to the US. So you repatriate back to the US again in this pandemic
Yeah.
setting, very different than anything that we've ever experienced throughout our time in this organization.
Hmm.
Um, and then on top of that, like you're dealing with the reverse culture
Hmm.
shock in quarantine. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about what that experience is like to I guess experience the reverse culture
Hmm.
shock, but having to do it at home in a room by yourself?
Yeah, we fully isolated for those 2 weeks right when I got off the plane, so I stayed home the whole time. And then even after that, I didn't exactly leave. It was pretty peak pandemic in Massachusetts right when I got home. So I spent all my time with my family. We had a good time, but the reverse culture shock kind of kicked in when I finally started to leave my house again. Like I remember vividly the first time I got in my car, I went to the eye doctor and I was just so excited to see someone. It was like fantastic, but like I just couldn't wait to tell her like all about it. Like I just wanted to spew on and on about my trip and coming home and this and that.
Yeah.
So it was definitely different to just kind of sit with your thoughts in your room. So I did kind of bug my sisters all day.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, the beauty of everyone can knock social media till the cows come home, but the beauty of it is you have a way to stay in touch with not just the people that you've met that have also repatriated back, but your RDs, any of the staff that you've met. You were still taking classes virtually to finish the
Yeah.
semester. So, you have all of these different resources to kind of go through those lulls that you definitely feel when you return back. I probably should have done this backwards, but we talk about reverse culture shock. When you first arrived to Prague, I always think of culture shock in that like moment of, okay, Dorothy, we're not in Kansas anymore. Like you've landed, you've seen something, that one moment where you're like, okay, I've never seen that, but here we go. Do you remember what that moment was like for you, that culture shock kick in?
Yes, I feel like it was kind of my first tram ride out of the dorm by myself. Like I was kind of walking by myself and I got on the tram and I was just staring out the window and looking at all of the big beautiful buildings and the river and the bridge. The Charles Bridge is just stunning. And I was like, wow, like we really made it. It was kind of that moment. Like
Here.
that
Yeah.
plane really brought me here.
Yeah. Was that your first time abroad ever to
It
Prague?
was my first time in Europe,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
my first time real far overseas.
Awesome. I remember the first time I ever took the metro I was in Italy. I was getting on by myself, and it was everybody crams into this
Yes.
tuna can, right? It's just this tiny, and everyone's on top of each other like packed like sardines. And as I was getting on, someone had stepped on my shoe, and I lost my shoe, so I was riding the metro with one shoe and arrived to the Coliseum with one shoe. And a horror story, but now something I can laugh about. So I feel you on that. It's unlike anything that you've ever experienced in the US. So that's very cool. Awesome. Let me see. Okay. This one is like, again, a loaded question. But if you can kind of walk us through what your routine looked like from morning to night, and you can do like a weekday and a weekend if you want to kind of separate what, the two would have looked like, but just kind of give us a day in the life, because we're all in our rooms right now, and we need to armchair travel somehow. So please take us to Prague, Gabby.
All right. So I'd wake up, the sun always shone right through. So I'd wake up, and we had breakfast downstairs, a little, what's the word? Continental breakfast downstairs for us at like, it ran until like 10 o'clock. So we would go downstairs and have breakfast.
Oh, so you could sleep in if you didn't have class. Okay.
You could. There was a good amount of time. I don't think I had any too early classes. I'm not a super early person.
Gotcha.
But yes, so we would wake up, get breakfast, and I would take the tram. You had to walk up, not super far, but we walked up this little hill to our tram stop, and we would hop on in the morning, and there was always one running, so it was like you weren't worried about missing it. There was always another one coming, and it was like maybe a 5-10 minute tram ride right to our stop. And then we would hop off, and you could either go down underground into the little like subway train kind of thing and take it underneath and back up to where our classes were. But it was such a short walk, and it was so much more picturesque to walk straight over. There was this little bridge over the river where our class was, right next to the Jewish quarter. If you know kind of about Prague, it's a little confusing, but the Jewish quarter was right here, and then our building was right here, right in this beautiful little like green area. So I would walk over the water every day, and I would go, okay, remember this water, because you can't do this every day for the rest of your life. So I always remembered that. And then I would go up to class and have a good class. And after that, you might grab coffee. I'm always down for a good coffee shop, always looking for a new one. Prague has so many little tiny coffee shops. You don't want to go to like Starbucks or anything like that. Like you want to try a new one every day. So I would say that was like always a good highlight, to really sit down and enjoy it. And if I didn't have another class, I might go to like a museum by myself or walk by myself while I like waited for some friends to get out. And then we would usually cook dinner or go out for dinner or meet up somewhere, because everybody's kind of scattered around the city, and we would always kind of convene later in the evening together, which was nice.
Awesome. And that's a day. I'm
like
ready to go now. Like pack our bags.
I know.
And I think you kind of hit this on the head. Like just one of the most simple pleasures of just being in a completely different place is just like the people watching, right?
Yes.
Let's just sit, have your coffee, be outside, what have you, and just like watch how people in Prague or wherever you are just going about life. And it's so much more like slow paced, it almost seems, than the US. We always seem like we're in a rush to get somewhere and getting nowhere on time, and you go over there and it might be the same in some regard, but it just seems like a very different pace. So Prague specifically, like, is everything really fast moving, or is it kind of a little bit slow and subtle? Like, what would you describe that as?
It's definitely still a city at its core, so it's got some move-ins going, but you can always kind of find a spot. Like, I'm a big like greenery person. Where I live back home, I live near the water, so I live on the ocean, so I'm like, being landlocked is always kind of weird for me, so I'm always looking for like a little park, a cafe next to a park, somewhere you can kind of like, my goal was to not drink coffee to go all the time, and just really like sit down with other people who were also kind of taking a much slower pace. So there was a lot of like cafe culture, even pub culture. People will do their homework there and just kind of stuff like that. But there definitely still is like the hustle and bustle of a regular city, which is what I was looking for, definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like you perfectly match made with your city of location. That's awesome. What were the locals like? Were they, we kind of talked a little bit about what kind of film humor they like, but are they initially friendly? Did you find a mix of both, kind of, shy, coy? What are the locals like? What's that local culture?
They're definitely pretty reserved, especially on like public transportation. You really just kind of stick to yourself and stay pretty quiet. Like they always can point out the Americans because we're loud. I know I have a loud voice. I always have to remember to tone it down a little bit, but they're a little reserved. But I would say the one trick, if you even know just a little bit of Czech, they're so excited to help you learn more, speak to you in Czech, help you with something like that. Even if you can just say like, excuse me, can you help me in Czech? And then switch back to English, because once they start talking and your eyes go wide and you can't translate that quickly, they understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we could say that about almost all of our program locations. If you make an effort in somebody else's linguistics other than your own, you're kind of almost saying, without physically saying, I'm here to like be taught by you,
Yes.
to learn from you, to observe. So I think the more you put that foot forward and you make that initial effort, you'll receive, some kind of something back in return.
Definitely.
You receive what you give, or give what you
Yes.
receive. It's all one big circle.
It's a big circle.
Exactly.
I understand.
Very cool. Did you make a lot of local friends, or?
Yes, I had a Czech buddy. I signed up for the buddy program, which was really nice. We got to grab like lunch and coffee, and I just asked her so many questions, like, where do you go see movies? What do you usually do on the weekends? Like, I just rapid fired, and she was so excited to talk to me. Her name was Bara. She was lovely. And I still have her phone number. We keep it in there just in case. Hopefully
Yeah,
I'll be able
go
to
back someday and visit her,
Yes.
or she can come here and visit you, and she'll see how very different it is. What are the similar? Were you and Albara the same age, just
Yes.
about? Yep. What would you say are like the similarities between a girl from the U.S. and a girl in Prague versus those differences?
I had a lot of questions about like what kind of culture she consumed during, like, does she consume a lot of like Czech culture? But she said their biggest thing is they love consuming like American pop culture, and when they were all younger children, they all want to learn how to speak English to consume the American pop culture. So as many questions as I had for her, I felt like she had just as many to toss back at me, which was really, really interesting, and it felt like a really good like flowing conversation almost always. I felt like there were more similarities than differences between us.
Yeah, you're good. That's amazing, and I think that's something definitely to be acknowledged, is that they want to know just as much about you as you do them. And we think, I don't know, for me, I was always like, well, I'm American, I'm not interesting. There's nothing interesting about me. And then you go abroad and you're like this shiny toy, and everybody wants to know everything about you. And you're just like, I came here to get away from what feels mundane. So it's interesting how that perspective shifts between cultures. Awesome. Hacking. Like I said, these questions are out of order. I know for me, I always want to bring options, but the more I travel, the more I realize you don't need this. You'll be able to find this. It's not impossible to find this in a store, whatever those things are. What are some things you would suggest, maybe specifically for Prague, if you are studying in the spring, seasonally speaking? And what were some things you brought that maybe you didn't need to bring?
I would definitely say check the weather. Prague had very similar weather to like New England, where I am here anyways.
Unintended, check the weather.
Yes,
I like that.
Yes. But so make sure you have some good warm clothes, but it will warm up, I promise. It was just getting warm right as we left, which was lovely. But I think I brought too many jackets and shoes, like accessory like pieces. That's the kind of person I am. But the things you can definitely find there, like you don't need to pack like your soap and your shampoo and conditioner. I promise they have those things.
Right.
So save that extra room. I had one big suitcase that I checked, and I had one little like carry-on suitcase, and they lost my luggage for a couple days. So I will say, pack some clothes in your carry-on. Don't just fill that carry-on with shoes. You want, a couple extra
underwear
things in there.
and things.
You want socks and underwear and things. Don't just fill it with, I don't know.
Things that you can't share with your roommates right away. First time I went abroad, my luggage was lost for the first week, and I was borrowing everything from everyone. So
but
I completely,
it was fun.
And the other thing too is, I mean, we talked about this, okay, I kind of want to blend in, like I have to tone down my, I don't want to say Americanism, but you're trying to blend somewhat, right? So I know for me, like my fashion sense changed. I wanted to look the part, like be more like a local, fit in more. So did you find yourself kind of shopping in Prague to kind of fit that role, or not so much?
Yes, I definitely think I did. I love like fashion. I'm a big fan of thrifting and like looking for
Same.
kind of like vintagey things and stuff, you know, better for the earth, all that good
Yes.
jazz. So I felt like thrifting really helped me kind of find pieces. I got this one while I was there, actually.
Love it.
I love this
It's
sweater.
cozy.
Oh, it's so
Yes.
comfortable. But yeah, you
Awesome.
can definitely like revamp your wardrobe to kind of fit in. In Europe, they dress a lot more like business casual than just casual. And I'm a real comfy gal
Yeah.
around the dorm. I like sweatpants and a big sweatshirt. But when you go out, I like to kind of, you know, you want to look good. You get those Instagram pictures, want to meet people.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
was a good time.
Very, very good point. You said something and it triggered a question. So you said I'm green or green for the
Yes.
people or something. So obviously you care about the environment a lot. Do you think that Czech Republic and Prague in specific, are they somewhat of a green city? Are there green initiatives? Did you witness any of that?
I felt like there definitely were. I definitely carried like my reusable water bottle
Mhm.
everywhere. They didn't really give us like plastic bottles of water. It was always in glass. And one thing they don't just give you plastic bags when you go shopping. You have to like ask for them,
Mhm.
which was something I didn't know the first time I went shopping. So like once I figured that out, I bought a little reusable bag and I keep it stuffed in my purse. It rolls all up perfectly and I took that everywhere and it was great. So you don't have to worry about just keep getting plastic on plastic everywhere. So I felt
Yeah.
like they had a couple of great green initiatives. The public transport is like phenomenal, which is always great in a city.
You don't see that smog in the air. It's like a
No.
pretty good sign. And I'll bet you brought back some of those, like, the reusable bag and whatnot.
Mhm.
Now that you're back in Massachusetts, you probably still have that stuffed in your
I
purse, ready to
do.
go. Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. Let me see. Okay. And this is another loaded question, but study abroad is nothing if it's not an opportunity for growth, whether that's personal, professional, academic, any outlet of growth. So, in what ways do you think you grew personally, professionally, or academically? And can you share a little bit about that with us?
I think both personally and academically, I learned just to slow down. Like, you don't need to be going like a million miles per hour all the time. I feel like when I'm home on campus, I'm doing this and that and everywhere. But I just kind of really focused in on my classes that I was taking, but they weren't like absorbing so much of my time that I knew I would always have extra time to take for myself and just walk everywhere instead of taking the tram and things like that and just really slow it down. And I really think I've brought that back home with me. Like, we've just started the semester. We're about 3 weeks in here at Worcester State, and I don't feel like crazy overwhelmed or anything. I feel like I've really kind of gotten into a good groove of knowing where school is and where personal life is and knowing how to just enjoy greenery and things like that. I think that comes with COVID as well. It was like a real lesson to learn, like really take in what you can every day because we had no idea we were going home. It was like a little inkling suspicion that nobody really wanted to think about. So like we really absorbed the days that we had knowing that they could be limited.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hope everyone has gained that mentality through the pandemic, like who your loved ones are and how
Mm-hmm.
to make the most of that time. And obviously, I mean, I'm living to get back out there. Like
Yes,
the
we all
second
are.
that borders open, I'm like, I might be in Prague, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But you definitely look back on those experiences and you're like, wow, I went on this trip and it was great, but did I really make every
Mm-hmm.
moment worth something worth remembering and treasuring? And you
Yeah.
certainly, looking back at it, whether you were living in the moment or not, you
Mm-hmm.
certainly like do hold those in a very different aspect for sure. So here's my question, because you are an alumni ambassador
Mm-hmm.
at Worcester, and it's kind of your job and your role to make sure that students feel comfortable and supported and encouraged to study abroad. So you probably in your mind have some kind of magical phrase or something that, you know, you always keep in your back pocket when you're talking to students that would encourage them to pursue studying abroad if they were on the fence about it. Sometimes we have students that are gung-ho, they need no convincing, they need no introduction. And then we have those who are, you know, maybe they're leaving for the first time, and it can be a scary experience. Any new experience can be scary. So what is that advice that you always give to your colleagues and your classmates to kind of get them to see the good in all of this?
Yes, I would definitely say do your research, but don't do it so much that you're spinning those gears all day, every day. You want to kind of do the research, get the information you want, and then let it be just like a magical experience. Let it be something that you can just go get on that plane and do. And if you're really nervous about going by yourself or nervous about a long term or something like that, you can always bring a friend. You can always do a short term program. I really encourage students to just do a program. I've worked in our study abroad office. This is my 3rd year now, along with being an alumni ambassador.
Awesome.
So I love talking to students about this. But we have so many different options, whether it be like a short-term week or 2 trip, a summer trip, or, you know, the full semester or the full year. Like, you really can kind of like start small and work your way up if that's something you're worried about.
Absolutely. And if they study twice with AIFS, they get the study again grant. So throw that in there. And I think, and I can't speak for everybody, but usually if you're open to the experience and you know, kind of take away the expectation, because we can prepare you as much as possible. You can prepare students as much as possible, but there are going to be everyday encounters where you have those Dorothy, I'm not in Kansas anymore moments, and you just kind of have to be open to them, find the comedic relief in that, and roll with it. Where was I going with this? But yeah, we can prepare students as much as we can. You can as well, but they have to be somewhat open to that experience. But one way or another, you're going to get bit by the travel bug if you are open to that experience. And that's an infection that lasts a lifetime, and there is no medicine for that. I promise that. Absolutely. So, Gabby, I saw a couple questions come in. I'm going to, a lot of your friends who did the program with you are saying hello. So hello, Prague Spring 2020 crew.
We are a crew. We love the Sprague.
Miss M. Williams, we saw your takeover the other day. Excellent job. I have a question from Katerina Malkova. Where did you stay? Was it comfortable? And how was the shower, or was it a bath? These are important things to know, quite honestly. The comfort of your living situation. So please feel free to enlighten us.
Yes. So like I said, I lived in a dorm and like a suite style thing with 4 girls, so 5 of us total. So 5 girls, 1 shower. It's not as bad as you sound. I live with sisters. Oh, there
you're ready for that. You have sisters.
Yes, I have sisters.
You're good.
So I'm used to it. The shower, it wasn't a bath. It was like a stand-up shower. It had good water pressure. I don't know if that's something anyone's interested in. I felt like the water pressure was pretty good. It might have been something I would have been interested in, you know?
Right.
Let's see. What was the other part of the question? My phone's on.
Was it comfortable? Was it, you said yes to that.
Yes.
Yeah. And shower versus bath. I think you've covered that one.
Awesome.
Let me see. Where did she go? Miss Hannah Harper 28. Prague, Czech Republic, which if you can give us an idea, backwards. Europe is right above my head, right below this postcard, so I can't point it out to you guys exactly, but if you can geographically kind of describe where that is on the map again, Gabby.
It really is like the center of Europe. It's right surrounded by, there's Germany up here and Poland, and there's Hungary over here, so it's right in the center. So it wasn't too far to get anywhere. Like I said, our flight to Paris was maybe like, oh goodness, an hour and a half, 2 hours. Not bad at all. Very close flights, and if we had the time, if we weren't sent home, we were definitely going to take advantage of those high-speed trains. I definitely think traveling by train is a phenomenal choice as well.
And I believe there's a train, this was when I was in Europe, there's like a train pass you can buy, like an annual pass to use for the train, like a subway kind of a thing. So definitely an investment to be made.
Yes, agreed.
Awesome.
You want to hit everywhere.
Hannah Harper, I want to do Prague 2020 AIFS.
It's a good choice.
Good choice.
Everyone on the ground there is just so lovely. The AIFS team, like I said, Renata, Jenny, Z, all of them. Lovely people. Can't recommend it
Awesome.
enough.
Oh, it makes me so happy to hear that. Yeah, our RD staff, I have only met these people through Zoom, unfortunately, because of the pandemic.
Yes.
But one thing I will say is every time I've had a meeting with them,
Mhm.
it is transcendent. Like you can just feel their passion
Yeah.
for what they do and how much they miss you guys. They tell
I
us that all
know.
the time, that they're like, we're ready for students to come back now.
Yes.
So there's definitely a bit of a, hole in their heart right now. But yeah, they absolutely, you can experience that through Zoom just by talking to these people. They love what they do. Rachel Josephson, Prague 2018, AIFS, Renata is the best.
She
And there
is.
we go, guys. Renata's been with us quite some time, I believe. So she has a longevity with AIFS. And again, you can tell this woman absolutely loves her role, which is spectacular. Yes, put some respect on Renata.
She has
I
a
think we're
fan
going to
club.
title this live Prague Renata Praise. I'm just kidding.
This is Renata's fan club.
Yes.
It really is.
Pretty vast fan club. Let's see here. Moravia has my heart, M. Williams.
We
M
love
was also one of our
Moravia.
alumni. Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Here's one from Kat. How was the AIFS application process? I experience this every day, but from someone's perspective of who is filling out that application, can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts, feelings, experience, what have you?
Just the initial application I felt like wasn't too complicated. I'm like racking my brain. It was a little while ago.
Yeah, we're pushing it back quite a bit, but
Yeah.
yes.
It wasn't super complicated. I know I did have like a few questions here and there about visas and things like that, and I was always able to call. I'm not sure if she was specifically assigned to like the Prague students who were assigning, but there was always someone for me to call, and always answered the phone in the Stanford office, which was really, really nice. I felt like I wasn't like floating through the process alone, and it was really easy with Worcester State as well. Like just pertaining to our university, as I said, I already work in the office, so I felt like I had really great staff there behind me. But on top of that, just students who come in, like we're so excited to help people like get into study abroad. Like we really are.
You are. I went to Worcester for a study abroad fair pre-pandemic. I think it was February. And just a very amped staff, very friendly, very easy to talk to and work with. So props to Worcester and Renata. That's just what this is turning into.
That's what it is.
And kind of what you said, you have support at all levels. So I help with pre-application process. Once you guys are applied and registered, you deal directly with your admissions officer. And they're excellent at what they do as well. So we have admissions officers that are assigned to the various programs that help prepare you to apply for your visa, help with your housing arrangements, if you're booking flights with us, all of those inclusions. So you have your pre-departure support, you have your support when you are on site, aka Renata and the RD team, and then once you return, you have your alumni network, which is led by Angela Manginelli, and she is fabulous. She is a goddess.
So great.
So, and all of our field staff team as well. And they really do kind of really want to see you guys, use this experience, not just to recruit new students to study and study abroad in general, but to really, build your resumes in a sense that you can really highlight this experience and set yourself apart from future, employers and things like that. So they really give you so many resources thereafter, so many different things you can get involved in. You can apply to be an alumni ambassador, really super cool role. So lots of good stuff for thereafter. Kat has another question, Kat Rigliano. What was your favorite memory from your experience? This is a tough question. How do you pick just one? Good luck.
I know the one. I have it. It was when we made it to Paris and we all had just eaten dinner and we were headed over to the Louvre. They had like free students from 6 to 7 p.m. It was free admission. And it just so happened to be the perfect time we showed up. It was the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen in my life. And we were all just standing there just the timing was so impeccable. We saw the sunset right over the Louvre. It was stunning through those, the big triangle glass windows. It was just the best moment without a
Oh,
doubt. Like we all like remember it in our heads so perfectly. I was there with
swoon.
a couple friends.
We're all gonna
Beautiful.
go to Gabby's Instagram
Yes,
handle after this. Hopefully she's not private, and we're gonna go see
they're
the
there.
Parisian sunset photos. Oh gosh,
So good.
awesome! Yeah, fabulous. I'm sure you saw a lot of really good sunsets over
I
there.
love a good sunset.
Hello AIFS Deutschland. Hello Hannah Harper. Let's see. Ah, okay. I don't know if we can really answer this question
Hmm.
because your experience is Prague, but AIFS Berlin or
Hmm.
Prague? Well, I don't know. I'm kind of on Team Prague right now, but we
That's hard.
will have an Instagram live featuring Berlin in a few weeks, guys. So Hannah Harper 28, join us for that session. Keep this one locked away. You can always review this one at a later time. It will live on the handle for life as long as
Perfect.
Instagram is alive. And then Hannah Harper, you can be the you can decide which
Yes,
one is a better fit.
I'm
And
sure.
that's just it too. It's not one is better than the other. It's not team, I don't know, Jacob or Edward. It's that age to me. It's
Yes,
not Slytherin or Gryffindor. It's just what one is a better fit for you.
definitely.
But AIFS Germany, Hannah, both are wonderful. Prague is more historical buildings and a feel of a smaller city. Berlin is not as pretty, but very busy, loud, and there's a niche for everyone. Happy to chat more. DM me. Feel
That's
free
a
to
good
connect,
answer.
guys. Yeah. Uh, let's see more.
Good questions.
AIFS tote bags are great. And all over Europe, you can get cute ones as souvenirs. I'm sure you
Hmm.
brought a lot of souvenirs home. If you have, how many sisters did you say you have?
I have two sisters.
Okay, yeah, you probably came home with
Yeah.
just a suitcase just for them. What kind of souvenirs did you bring home for the family?
I got my sister like this big, beautiful handmade mug that she was like so excited about. I think I got my little sister like some magnets, like homemade. I really like homemade souvenirs was my goal. I didn't want like airport souvenirs.
Right.
But because we were sent home a little early, things started to close down. So we went on like a massive souvenir shopping spree before it all got shut down. And I got handmade mugs and magnets and ornaments and all those
Like an
beautiful things.
amazing race challenge,
Yes,
right?
it
Where you're just
really
on the
was.
clock running around the
We
city.
were like, we've got 1 hour, like go, go. It
Yeah.
was so
It's
fun.
like speed shopping at its
We did.
finest. You want pressure? Shop in a pandemic. It sounds about right. Um, Kindle Lemons. Kindle Lemons. Did you feel yourself spending a lot of money per week, or
Mm,
did you feel it was easy to budget being in Prague? If you want to expand on
okay.
that.
I think the first like week or two, I spent quite a bit because I was like getting my footing. But
Mhm.
once we got into a groove, I really enjoyed the groceries there were so, so cheap. I shopped at Albert's in case anyone asks. Albert's was phenomenal. They had lots of really good food. And I like to, my goal was to kind of cook for myself during the week as much as I could, like cook dinner and things like that. And then on the weekends, I would try to, like, if we were going on a trip or somewhere and I knew I wanted to spend more money and go out to eat and do things like that. So that was kind of my goal, was to like meal prep on a Sunday or a Monday and then be ready to restart that whole weekend process again. So I felt
Yeah.
like that was a pretty solid budget plan.
Yeah, and it sounds like your commute to school wasn't one in which, you were spending more time commuting than you were physically in each of, my home location and my school location. So you
Yes.
definitely had time to kind of cook, relax, come home, unwind,
Yes.
study, go have a midnight coffee, nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Shy Go Susanna, what courses did you take while in Prague? Did you have a favorite class? We did talk about this, but please feel free to. I could listen to this again. I'm jealous that I was not a part of
Yes.
this program. Go ahead.
Like I said, the best course was Czech New Wave Cinema. We learned all about that era in like the 60s, about Czech cinema, which was super cool. One little fun fact I didn't say, they had lots of like, we saw the films that they might have banned during that time period, and why they banned them,
Okay.
which I thought was very, very interesting because they were, in fact, under like the communist regime during that time. So they were producing film under that sort of government, which was super interesting. I think that's why I loved it so much. But then, like I said, my other courses, I took 2 sociology courses, sociology of Czech landscapes, which we talked about, you know, all the different landscapes and how people fit into that, which was really interesting. And then we also took sociology of food, which is what it sounds like. We talked a lot about food and eating habits in the Czech Republic, which are different than American eating habits, which is very interesting to kind of like sit there and compare and contrast the two. And then the fourth course I took was Czech humor and culture. So we talked a lot about how Czech humor differs from American humor, and we went all the way back to really, really old like Czech literature, and then on to we watched some Czech films from like the 60s, 70s, things like that, to really get into it, which was great.
Awesome. I'm just feeling like jealousy, but joy for you. It's great. I'm feeling both, all the feels.
They were great classes. I really enjoyed how they all like revolved around the culture in a sense. Like it was like we were put into those classes while being there was like what the experience was for.
Yeah, and you take everything that you learn in that class and then apply it to your street savvy, you know, how you navigate through new relationships, what have you, all that good stuff. Void Teller says, love you, Gabby. We do love you, Gabby, and we thank you for being with us today. I don't see any more questions, so before we go, we're going to do a quick little lightning round.
Okay.
I'm just going to give you like a word, and if you can just say the first thing that comes to mind in relation to Prague, just, you know, feel free to do so. So we'll start with my favorite, food.
Food. Goulash.
Goulash. Okay. I'm going to have to write this all down later. Goulash. All the things we're going to have to try. Transportation.
Clean. So clean.
Excellent. That is the best kind to have. Locals.
Kind.
Okay.
Very kind people.
Excellent. This is all just sounding really perfect. Language.
Difficult, but worth it. It was a hard language, but definitely like worth it to pick up on. And once you get the groove, you learn more and more quickly.
Well, and it opens up the locals, and then they'll be even more. They'll be overly kind. Not such a thing, but excellent. Favorite city.
Prague.
Yeah.
It has to be. I can't say no.
There's a bias because it's your home now. It's your home away from home.
I have to go back.
Landmarks.
Ooh.
Or sites.
Prague Castle.
Okay. Again, everybody put this up here. We're going to have to look these things up when we depart today. And architecture.
Stunning.
Okay.
It was so good. Tall.
Excellent.
Can I use 2 words? Stunning.
You can
tall.
as many as you want. There are no rules, and you are the first. So you are our guinea pig in a sense. So we're just very casual here. And then this one I did not prepare you with. But if you could describe your experience in one word and one word only, what would that be? Good luck.
Oh no. One word only. Short.
Oh, well.
Short.
All the more reason to go back.
Yes.
So Gabby, thank you so much for being with us today. Guys, do we have any other questions for Gabby that I missed? Because I went through these pretty fast, but I think wait, did I get that one?
I think we did it.
Application process. I see a lot of hands waving. Lots of respect for Renata.
Of course.
She is the boss woman, I should say. Awesome. Well, Gabby, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, guys, we're going to be doing this all semester long. So if you have any questions that we did not get to for Gabby today, feel free to send them to us. We will get them to her. I'm going to go creep on Gabby's handle now and look at all
good
sunset pictures and all this wonderful stuff. But again, you had one of the toughest semesters in AIF history, and if you can, you know, come on the other side of this still smiling, ready to get back out there, I think that's a true testament, not just to whom you are, but just the amazing program that you got to participate in, and all of those that are an integral part of that. So again, Gabby, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll get to see you again soon. Everybody take care, be safe, and we will be live again next Friday. We're going to be traveling to Barcelona, and you have to say it just like that with the lisp. Barcelona. So join us at 3 p.m. Eastern time next week. Again, any questions, our information is in the AIFS broad handle. You can leave us a DM with your phone number and email, or click the link in our bio for more info. But guys, we're going to sign off. Everybody stay
Bye.
safe, be well, and we'll be traveling with you again soon. Thanks,
Thank
Gabby.
you.
Bye, guys.